In verse 2, he spoke about God speaking to us directly. So it means that in the New Testament, everybody ought to hear God directly. But the matter of hearing God in the New Testament is technical. Because if you have not exercised it by the reason of use, for instance, let's say I'm just a believer. I cannot just decide that I've heard God. Because if you have not heard God on things that do not matter, you will never hear him as regard things that matter. And the implication, what I'm trying to say is, if God have not told you the kind of shirt to wear, if he had not told you how that you should not leave your house that day, if he had not told you things that will not cost you, he cannot speak about things that are programmed to cost you if you miss his voice. So if God have not spoken to you about the fact that you are planning to eat today and say, no, don't eat, don't eat, don't eat, wait on me today, because that won't cost you. If he have not spoken to you about that white shirt you wanted to wear because you love white, like me, and he said today wear black, and you change it no matter how much you have planned it, because that will not cost you. If he had not spoken to you about things that will not cost you, you will never hear him as regard matters of life and destiny, because those are the things that will cost you. I heard Apostle Aromes preaching one day, and he said somebody was in the bush, hunting. He said, believer, somewhere, no, not hunting. Somebody went to the mountains to pray. He said people go there to pray. This day he was the only one there. He was just there praying gently. Then somewhere in the middle of prayer, he says that God said he should kneel down. And immediately he knelt down. Somebody thought it was an animal. Real life. Because somebody, Isaac now, shot. You see, that's example of what will cost you. If he didn't know to hear God's voice, that day would have been dead. He died in the place of prayer, not because it was the will of God, but because he will not hear God's voice on the things that do not matter. You cannot suddenly hear God's voice on the things that matter. You see, these are the dynamics. Leave all this go on inside and hear. No. God begins to talk to you on things that do not matter at all. Like call Mr. A. Like say hello to B. Those are the things that do not matter. Call your mom. Those are the things that do not matter. But the ones that matter are matters of destiny. If you do not hear God, listen to this dynamic. If you have not heard God on the things that do not matter, normal things that will not cost you anything, because in training you don't take risk. I get what I'm saying? So when God is training you in the act of hearing his voice, they are not, the things that will be training you with are not going to be a risk. So if you don't do it, it's no risk. The only risk there is that the day that things will matter, you will not hear him. Are you getting what I'm saying? When God begins to train you on the act of hearing his voice, he will train you with things that will not cost you if you decide not to obey. But don't forget, he's training you because you will arrive a place in a particular time in life that you will need to obey his voice. Because right now, it's about the things that may cost you in life. He will not say that because you didn't go through the training, that season will not come up. That season of the things that will cost you will always come. That's the reason why God will prepare you before time. So if you ignore his voice, you are still going to do the exam. And if you fail, you will suffer. And it will still be God. So Abraham, go to the land that we showed you. Abraham didn't know the land. Abraham was moving part time based on what God is saying. Are you get what I'm saying? Abraham was moving part time on the basis of what God. That means there were many other instructions God was giving Abraham till he got to the land that he will show him. God is taking you to Oliole Estate. There are many places. You don't know the place. And he said, go, I'm taking you to Oliole Estate. You have to get to Dubai. Before we tell you, turn right like this. All those turn. That's still God showing you. But you have not gotten to the place. So when you don't learn to hear God on trivial things that are normal, you are risking your life. Because the exam will still come. You know, a student, even if you don't go to class, exam will come. You're not going to class, it's at your own peril. The lecturers will not say because you didn't come, exam will not hold. The exam will hold, and everybody will write the exam. That thing is called the exam of life. You get to junctions where you must just hear God. But just because you must hear God doesn't mean that you will hear God. Just because you think that you must hear God right now is not a guarantee that you will hear God. Because if you have not yielded to the training of God as it pertains to the things that do not matter, such as the food to eat, such as don't wear that outside, such as do this, things that will not cost you, if you don't yield to that, when it gets to things that will cost you, you will not be able to survive it. You will not pass it. So just because you decided that you want to hear God's voice doesn't mean that you will hear God's voice. Because when you decide to hear God's voice, God will speak, but you will still not hear. Because even your emotion will speak. Your environment will speak. Are you know what I'm saying? Many voices will be speaking. That's how it happens. Your experience will speak. Are you get what I'm saying? Everything will be. So God, it's not like God is not speaking, but you can't recognize his voice. Because you didn't recognize it why he was speaking as pertaining trivial matters. People don't hear God just because they decide that they want to hear God's voice now. No. God trains you. When you decide that you want to hear God's voice now, it's the training that you will still begin with. Anytime you decide that you want to learn the act of hearing God, God will not now begin speaking to you. Not because he will not speak, but you never can hear him. So he will still begin with the training. You send a child to school. He does not want to go. When he's now ready, he's still the level he should start from. He will start from. He's training, my friend. We will not say because you are now 25, you are ready to go to school. Go and do jam. When you have not done WAEC. It's a process. It's a phase. Meanwhile, until you do the things, this is the second side of it now. Until you do the things that God has said, you are not a candidate of what he is saying now. And until you do what he is saying now, you are not a candidate of what he will say. What God has said is captured in his word. What God is saying is his direct word to you. And what God will say is revelation knowledge as it pertains to the future. I hear people talking about the voice of God, the voice of God. I've given you what I've also told you. If you are not all out for Jesus, if you don't follow him with reckless abandon, where he will speak to you on matters that will not cost you. If you have not had intimacy with him, where he will talk to you on normal things, if you have not followed him, where he speaks to you on normal things that will not cost your life, cost your destiny, you are not going to ever hear him as it pertains to the things that concerns your life and your destiny. Sometimes you obey God. It's not because anything will go wrong, that's why he told you that thing, but he's training you. Have you obeyed God before thinking that if I don't obey, something will go wrong? But nothing will go wrong. He's training you. But the good thing is that the day that something will go wrong, you will hear his voice.